Hey guys, welcome back to Stop the Shunning. My name is Bethany, in case you're new to the channel. Today we are speaking with LaTrina Patton. LaTrina was one of Jehovah's Witnesses for 23 years. She was a dedicated wife and mother in the organization and was trying to do everything right, but still she suffered all manner of abuse at the hands of her own Jehovah's Witness family. Eventually, when she was faced with a life-altering decision regarding one of her pregnancies, she received zero compassion or mercy from the congregation elders. So today she's going to share her story with us about what she went through, the events that led her to wake up and eventually leave the organization. So thank you for being on the channel today, LaTrina.
Hi, Bethany. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate you.
Oh, it's good to have you on. So can you go ahead and get us started and just give us a little bit more of your background, how you came to be involved with the Jehovah's Witnesses?
My parents joined in the 70s. They met each other before they were witnesses. They had me before they were married, and they got married a year after I was born. They joined the witnesses when my mom was actually pregnant with my sister. So I think she was like maybe 6, 7 months, because my sister was, when she was born like 2 months premature. But I was maybe like 2.5. So I wasn't born in, but yeah, I was a kid. So yeah, that's all I know. And so my dad joined maybe a year or two later. I don't know exactly when he was, I was there as well for his baptism, as well as my mom's baptism. And they actually have pictures of it. Me actually standing by the baptismal pool as a little girl with a little pink dress on. And, I'm watching my mom, getting ready to get dunked, and she's full belly and all, getting ready to, So actually, I grew up in the Menlo Park congregation. So it was a lot of people that went there, mixed race. Um, we had Mexican, Filipino, Black, and it was a lot of families there that had children. And so, when we were growing up, we had kids around us all the time. And, we were always going to the meetings and things like that. And so when my earliest memory was when my mom had my sister, and my sister was born premature. So at that time, because when my sister was born premature, she was just newly baptized witness, and my sister needed a blood transfusion. And my sister was only born 2 pounds, 13 ounces. So she was teeny tiny. And my parents were adamant that they did not want her to have a blood transfusion. So they were at, I believe, either Kaiser, or I don't know if it's Stanford or Kaiser, but they ended up getting custody of my sister, the hospital, and gave her the blood transfusion anyway to save her life when she was a baby. So I remember that happened, and I remember that because my mom had a newspaper article, and it was actually printed in the paper of the situation that happened between the witnesses and my mom going through all that with the hospital and everything. And they had wrote an article about it, and my mom saved it. And so when I remember very young, me reading that, and I was like, whoa, So that I remember that, and we had a big congregation, and we grew up. It was a lot in our family, because my family on the outside seemed like because they had all their kids going to the meetings, and they make it seem like, oh, they're just a great family and they do all this and that, but behind the scenes we were going through a lot, and it was a lot of abuse. It was a lot of secrecy. I had a hard time dealing with things, going to school as a young child and you already have this label on you. You're supposed to be a witness, even though I'm not baptized, but witnesses require that if you have a kid, they just automatically assume that your kid is supposed to grow up in this organization and never give it any thought that maybe that child might want to do something else later on down the line. And it was hard because, there was fun times too. We would go to the meetings and, comment, we study, hang out with the brothers at the call. My parents loved to do stuff. They loved my mom. She was like into like starting her own businesses. So she was like into Tupperware, Princess House. She knitted, she sews, she know how to cook, and she know how to get along with all the people in the congregation. So we knew everybody. And we always also too would hang out as a family with some of the other brothers. So sometimes they would come over our house and they would play cards and just socialize or whatever. And then or we even went fishing sometimes. We went camping one time. We took some of the brothers and sisters. We stayed at a campground and we had fun doing that. So it was fun times too, but in between all of that was an undercurrent of abuse. I was younger. I remember having a hard time in school because I always felt like I wasn't a part of the family, because I just couldn't understand why my parents, instead of just being able to talk to us about certain things, like the first thing was, oh, we're gonna grab the belt, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And it caused a problem, because you want to love them because you're taught to love your parents, but at the same time, because if you do anything they don't like, instead of just talking to us, or sometimes they would talk to us and whip us at the same time. And so there were times like if we didn't do something that my mom or my dad didn't like, everybody was getting it. And it was a lot for me to take because, I had to go to school. So and then you get in these different ideas from the hall, like you're supposed to love and cherish your parents and your family. And it's like, you're not feeling that when you're at home, because it's like, I'm getting mixed signals. And I didn't understand it. And so when I went to school, I would try to pretend I was somebody else. So I'm like, I wouldn't even claim I was a witness. I would be like, I'm adopted. I'm adopted. I'm not from that family. That's not my family. I'm adopted. And just to try to like disassociate my mental from what was going on at home. And it was difficult. And so I had to deal with that. My mom, they grew up that way. My parents' background, they were abused. My father and his brothers and sister were abused, sometimes by my grandfather. And so I believe maybe they just didn't learn the tactics needed to take care of 6 children and be able to adequately deal with being a witness, having these strict rules, having these children who were born in the 70s, 80s, dealing with life and trying to make it. And it's caused a lot of confusion in my house. Not on top of that, but we also had other witnesses living with us at the time. So all throughout my childhood, even till this day, there are other people living in my parents' house. They would move other brothers and sisters in our home, and we still had to go to the meetings. So I'm going to 3 meetings a week. I'm going to the Tuesday Theocratic Ministry School. Then we got Thursday, which is the book study. Then you got Saturday service. Then you got Sunday, which is 2 hours. You got first and the first section and the middle section. So it's and then you got to keep up with your schoolwork. Then you also have to. I'm the oldest of 6 children, so I'm also taking care of my brothers and sisters while going through all of this.
I'm so sorry. First of all, I'm so sorry that you dealt with that, LaTrina. It absolutely breaks my heart. I'm really sorry. that you had to deal with that. No child should ever experience that. But what strikes
No,
me,
no child should have to go to the meetings with bruises and have to still sit there and listen to Watchtower. I like really,
and
child should have to endure that.
no child should have to endure that. And I know that there's going to be people listening who were in your position too and have kept that,
Mhm.
those, for understandable reasons, have kept that to themselves for a very long time and not talked about it because I mean, I'm not a therapist, but I imagine that's
Yeah.
something you don't want to keep at the forefront of your mind. But
Yeah.
what gets me is that, like you said, just tying back a little bit, you were one way at the Kingdom Hall, things looked a certain way, but there was always this, like you said, this undercurrent of,
Mhm.
secrecy and abuse.
Because they were getting their information from the brothers from the call. So whatever they said on the sermon that weekend, that's what they did. They followed it to a T. But it hurt us too at the same time. My mom, because she's so loving and trusting of the brothers, and sisters at the hall. Like when we were little, she used to when I was really young, probably like my sister was a baby, and she would let us get babysat by one of the sisters in the congregation. Well, one of the sisters, the sister that babysat us, her daughter, and I didn't know, and because I was trying to think of all the stuff that happened when I was a child, but her daughter molested me when I was a child, and she babysat us. Not only that, but my mom let other people nurse my sister when she was a baby. So the lady that babysat us nursed my sister as well as her own daughter because her daughter was a baby too. So, and it was more than one sister that I think that breastfed my sister at the time. Now, why she did that, I don't know, but I remember that. And I didn't have the words at the time to express what happened to me. I'm a kid. I don't understand. I can't express that, you know?
Did you did you keep it secret? Did you tell anybody at the time what you were going through?
No, I was a child. I was a child. My sister was a baby too. So I know it happened to me. And I know because I never forgot that. I never forgot it. And even when my mom would leave us, like at my grandmother's house, and now granted, I do have other family members in the congregation as well. I got two aunts, I got cousins, I have other family members that are Jehovah's Witnesses as well. And they grew up. My mom's sister grew up in the same. They went to the same congregation, Miller Park. So sometimes we would be with her kids, and my grandmother would babysit us. Well, her kids was exposing me to stuff that I shouldn't have been exposed to as a child. You know what I'm saying? Touchy feely stuff. And again, I'm young. I don't know that this is right or wrong, but I never told anybody that this was going on with me while I was over there. Well, come to find out years later that their father possibly abused them in ways we can't imagine.
There is um, so much generational trauma and abuse and stories like these that come from the witnesses where, like you said, you wonder why somebody's a certain way and then you find out, oh, it's because their father was doing this or their grandfather and he was an elder or this person was abused by a ministerial servant. There's so many stories like this that come from the Jehovah's Witnesses. Obviously, there's other churches and denominations that experience this, but like you said, Jehovah's Witnesses, you put on this smile and you act one way.
Right, and you have to
Oh,
smile. Like you're going through all this at home, but when you go to the hall, you got to smile and be cheerful and Jehovah this, Jehovah that, and gung ho, and you got all this stuff in the background going on, and it's just like it doesn't make sense, and it didn't make sense to me, but at that time, I didn't know I was developing a divergent mindset, based on that. So what poignant part came into my life was when I was 9 years old, and there was a bazaar going on at my school, and I wanted to buy something, and I ended up going in my mom's purse, and I ended up taking some money out, and I ended up spending it at the school, and I didn't have the money to put it back in, and I was so scared. I just was so scared because I'm already knowing, like, if I don't come up with this money, it's over for me. So as I'm walking home, I'm like, oh my God, I just don't want to go home. I won't go home. So I ended up going past my house, and I kept going. And from my house, because we grew up in East Palo Alto, our hall was mixed with people who lived in Menlo Park and people who lived in East Palo Alto. So I lived in East Palo Alto. I walked from East Palo Alto all the way to Redwood City, which was a 9-year-old, which is about 6-7 miles away on foot, because I didn't want to be home no more. And by the time I figured out that I didn't know where I was, and I got scared because it was nighttime, and I ended up going to finding a corner store, because when I was walking down the street, I'm getting scared, and I'm looking back at me, and I'm thinking people are following me, you know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, I'm going into the stores, So I go into the store and I hide behind the counter, and I said, I think somebody's following me. And he said, are you okay? And I said, I need to go home. Somebody, and then I just made up a story that somebody had took me. And I said, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. So they ended up calling the police and took me home. And I told my parents that somebody took me, instead of me saying I ran away, because I was trying to avert getting, something happening to me.
You were doing what you had to do
I did have to do what I had
survive.
to do. And because the police showed up, that didn't happen to me. But just to let you know, I was only 9 years old, and I was trying to get away then. But I also, at that time, I found my gift as well. I discovered I like doing hair. And so I work on, my mom, she did hair, and she did hair for the sisters at the congregation. So people was always in her house and getting their hair done or visiting or something. So she knew how to do hair, and that's how I learned as a child. So actually, when I became a teenager, I would do some of the sisters' hair. I would go to their house and do their hair. I had a sister, Sister Marshall. She lived down the street from us. I did her hair. I had another sister in the hall. I did her hair, and that's how I learned. Yeah, so it helped me to kind of take my learning skill, but also take my mind off of what other things that was going on. And then it helped, and I get a little change from it. So it helped me to save, learn how to earn money and work for myself. And that helped me a lot. And I ended up eventually becoming a hairstylist because of that. So,
something good in this path. There was a little seed of something at the beginning.
right,
Despite everything that you were going through, you had that little glimmer of hope that this was yours.
right.
You were learning.
So
Yeah.
when I was probably middle school, I tried to start having a friend. I ended up making a friend from the hall, and we ended up being in summer school. We took 7th grade summer school together. And it was my first friend, and so he would come to the house because he was a witness. So it was like, hey, can I walk your daughter to school? And my mom would be like, okay, you're a witness, whoop de whoop. So, and we'd be at school for the summertime, and I had somebody to talk to, and it was just like, kind of like started opening me up a little bit. So one day he's walking me home from school, and, think nothing of it. So I get home, and somebody had called my mom and told her that I was walking with him or saw me with him, and blew up the situation more than what it was. And to the point to where he could no longer come to my house to walk me anywhere based on what somebody else said in the hall. And I was just like, that's not fair. Cause that's my friend. We couldn't even hang out no more. And I was just like, wow. So it was things like that. First friend, can't have a friend, especially a male one. And, I didn't know that. I'm thinking, oh, he's Jehovah Witness. I should be able to talk to him, but because I'm a girl and he's a boy, no, that can't happen. So that ended my first friendship with anybody. Eventually, I ended up, I think it was senior year of high school, and I ended up meeting my children's father, who would become eventually my children's father. And we met at my mom's friend's house. And so we started talking and we started hanging out. And mind you, he came from a different congregation. I think he came from the Redwood City congregation. And so we started talking. Now, mind you, I'm not baptized, but I'm around everybody who is. And he was, but he was living on his own at that time. And we ended up, seeing each other, and one thing led to another. So he was my boyfriend on the low, though. So I decided, hey, I'm having such, it's my feelings for first boyfriend, I'm trying to figure it out. And so I started writing how I felt, like really just writing how I felt. And I put it in a diary. Well, I had a lock on the diary. So I go to school and I come back home, and guess who has my diary? My mother. She said, so apparently my sister had got a hold of the diary and gave it to my mother. They popped the lock on it and read every single word. So then they discovered, she's not a virgin anymore. So she said, oh, I already made an appointment with you to see the brothers. Before she didn't even talk to me about it. I was like, oh, I made an appointment with you and the brothers. I was like,
your life is not your own.
not at all.
When you're a Jehovah's Witness, the level of control and surveillance, what people don't understand is that it's not, and I've said this before, it's not church on Sunday. It is a high control group.
Very high control.
So the elders, if I could just say real quick, the elders and the organization as a whole, they model behavior for families. So on this larger scale, on this larger level, you have the elders, controlling people. There's all this surveillance in the congregation over their parishioners. And then what happens is they model that behavior for parents.
Yeah.
So that's why, and I mean, I know, again, this is not specific or unique to Jehovah's Witnesses. There's parents out there who are going to pop the lock on their child's diary, but that's so on brand for Watchtower, to just have no respect for your privacy, not treating a delicate situation.
Mind you, I'm at the age of consent. So
Yes.
we do consent in people who haven't experienced together, but you took it,
You're never
ran with it,
Yep.
and totally jacked up what we was trying to, or maybe it wasn't even meant to, maybe it was just supposed to be a little fling and we were supposed to go about our merry way, but it turned into a way bigger situation than what it was initially supposed to be. And because this is how Jehovah's Witnesses work. They make the parents give their parenting over to the elders, and then I'm like, you're not going to even discuss this with me first? Like, this is my first thing. I'm your mom. I'm like, you're my mom and I'm your daughter. And this is my first time with anybody. Wouldn't you want to have a conversation first before you go telling somebody, a third party? Now that was out of pocket. So I just, so I ended up going to this meeting. And let me tell you, when I say cringeworthy, asking me all kinds of rude questions, talking about how did I do it? Where did I do it? Did I like it? Did I do anything unclean, quote unquote? And I'm like, this my husband, this my boyfriend, I'm not discussing all that with you. And they were like,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, LaTrina. I am sorry that happened to you, number one. But I am so glad you brought that up because people don't realize until people hear stories like yours that this actually happens. This happens, and it's been happening for decades in Jehovah's Witnesses, where three men, if I could be just a tad more specific, you had to sit correct in front of a
first and second time, but we'll get to that later.
Three men, and three men were asking you, a young woman, intrusive questions about your body and your first sexual experience.
Absolutely. So I was just like, I didn't know, I'm still young. So I'm trying to get through it the best way I can. And so they were like, well, okay, we're going to put you on public reproof. And so I think with my boyfriend at the time, he got disfellowshipped because he was with me. Now, that didn't deter us from being together, but it was a problem. It was a major problem, and it changed the dynamics so much. And at that point, I was just like, I can't trust my family. I can't trust my mom. I can't trust my dad. I need to get out of here, and I packed two garbage bags and I left. They didn't even know I left. I left. And mind you, it was hard because I knew when I left that I was still leaving my brothers and my sisters there to deal with all of that.
How old were you? And when was this? You were 18?
I got my boyfriend at 17, moved out at 18. And I got married at 18 and eventually had my son at 19.
Okay, so from here, can you take us on the next chapter of what happened to you in being a Jehovah's Witness? You're away from home. How did that affect your relationship with your family? What happened to you next after you had your son? Your first child was a boy, correct?
I was a boy, and I ended up going into labor. I called my mom and my dad. I say, hey, I'm in labor. I told them where I was. And so I go into labor. My mom and dad show up at the hospital. My dad comes up to the room, but he doesn't step in the room. He's just at the door, peeps his head in, and he asks me, you okay? Now, mind you, I'm in intense labor, and I didn't even see my mom. My mom didn't even come up. She was in the car. Or I don't know where she was, but she didn't come in. And I ended up having my child by myself. And they didn't see my son for like 2 weeks after that, after I had him. And then I always felt some type of way about that because it was like, it's your first grandchild, you know what I mean? And not to want to, now mind you, I don't care how you feel about what, me being on public reproof or however you feel about what I did. Don't put that on your grandchild, you know what I mean? But that's how it started. So I'm raising my son, and then now mind you, I'm still married. We're still going to the meetings because we're trying to get back in, because that's all we know. So I ended up moving from East Palo Alto, and ended up moving to San Francisco, and I had my son in San Francisco. So we ended up going to the Bayview congregation out there, and it seemed like it was a little bit better congregation, even though I didn't know a whole lot of people there. But some of the people there, did like to get together and do stuff together. And we did meet some cool people. And, we try to make it work. So I get pregnant. Now, mind you, I get pregnant with my daughter, and I was in 94. And then now my son, when I got pregnant with my son, he was born with some health abnormalities. I'm not going to go into what it was, but it was significant enough for him to need some things in his first year of life. So when I got pregnant with my daughter, they said, oh, she might have, tumors on the brain. She might have some defects. We need to look in this further. So I was like, oh my God, and so I ended up having to do all these tests, do amniocentesis. And they were like, well, if you want to terminate, you can, you still have time. And I was just like, I would think at the time it was already like 5 months. I was like, I can't do that. That's my baby. I feel the baby moving and everything. Like, I can't do that. So I was like, no, I'm gonna keep my baby. And so I ended up having her. And luckily, nothing was wrong with her. I looked head to toe. She was fine. I was just like, thank you, thank you, thank you. But I realized then that, number one, I had a hard time carrying children. And number two, I didn't want to have anymore because it was just too hard. And because we started off with nothing, I knew that it was going to be a lot to take care of too. And because my relationship with my husband was kind of off and on, because we just wasn't ready to be married. Reason why we got married is because when I moved out, I ended up moving in with him. And his mom was like, oh no, you can't be here unless you guys get married. So his mother, she's half Filipino. She took us to Reno and got us married. So probably maybe a couple of weeks after I had moved out, I think I was going to Reno to get married. And then next thing you know, my son came. So, but we wasn't ready to be married. There's no way. And I didn't move out of the house with the assumption that I would be married. I was just trying to get away. But you got these adults who are orchestrating things in our lives, telling us we got to do X, Y, and Z. And so we don't know how to use our brains yet, our minds been under control of JW since we was little. So we just going along with, okay, you want us to be married, we get married. So we just did that. And we tried to make it work, we were just too young.
And here's the thing, Jehovah's Witnesses, they will always, LaTrina, correct me if I'm wrong, Jehovah's Witnesses will always treat you like you are a child, no matter how old you are.
Yeah.
So there's normal development and normal milestones that people go through in the outside world, and they have support from their families, and they have proper sexual education and, support systems. But as a Jehovah's Witness, you're generally speaking, even if you go to public school or maybe you're in the outside world, you're still extremely sheltered.
Right.
So,
and see, I wasn't ready for the world. I was not, but I thrust myself out there because I couldn't do JW that there at home. I had to go.
Well, that's understandable considering everything that you went through.
Yeah. And it was crazy because on the outside, like you said, with the witnesses, it seemed like they're all good people. And there are some good people, but there's an undertone of craziness that you would never think be going on, but it's going on. And even at the assemblies, like there's things, my parents were all like, oh, get ready for the drama and all this stuff. When we were kids, and we used to love that because it's like that's our entertainment. But if we're not sitting still in the meetings, we're not sitting still in the congregation, we're getting taken to the bathroom and getting dealt with, And so when I was a kid, me going to the bathroom, my mother was like, and if it was something she didn't like, and we went into that bathroom stall, yeah, I was getting my ass whipped. And that was, you would never think that a JW bathroom would be a torture chamber for a child, but it is.
So fast forward, you had your daughter,
My daughter,
and she's good. So it turns
yeah,
out
so made arrangements with my doctor. I said, hey, let's go ahead and let's just, you tie these tubes off because I'm good. I'm good. So, made the appointment, had it done, no worries. Actually, we were actually separated, me and my husband at the time. So we were married for a total of 5 years. Probably 2.5 of those years we were actually spent together. But at that time we weren't together, but we were seeing each other, trying to make it work. So I'm still breastfeeding my daughter, and I'm starting to feel sick. And I said, let me just go to the doctor and see what's going on. And I get there, and the doctor, we do tests and whatever, and he said, congratulations, you're pregnant. After I had my tubes tied, mind you.
that's why this face was. That's why I'm like,
Yeah.
how?
I
What did you? I
tell
mean,
you, I was sitting in the doctor's office, like in pure shock,
shock.
like trembling, shaking, like, how could this happen to me? And I was like, didn't you do the surgery?
Right.
What do you mean, congratulations? I'm not happy. I'm not happy. And I was probably the most traumatic, I don't want any more children. I got to, I'm by myself, mind you, right now. I'm not with my husband. I got my own place, and I'm taking care of them, taking them daycare. I got a full-time job, and I'm doing it. So having another was just like, I said, I can't do this to my body again. I can't. And what if something else happens to the child I have, and there's something really wrong, and then I by myself. And I was just like, I can't do it. I can't change my life for the next 20, 30 years with this if I know for sure that that's not what I wanted. So I made the decision that I did not want to go through with it. So I talked to my doctor, and I made an appointment to not go through with it. So when I made that appointment, now mind you, I never thought I'd be making a decision like this ever in my life. I love kids. I love children. I love my kids, the ones I have. I would do anything for them, anything. I probably, like, this time when I found out, it was probably like maybe 5, 6 weeks, if that. So as I'm going through all of this, mind you, I still haven't told my husband I'm pregnant. I get a call out the blue from a sister from the hall I used to go to, which was Miller Park. And mind you, she was married to my best friend that I told you I could no longer hang with when I was a child. Her brother, his brother was her husband. So she calls me and she said, hey, I saw you made an appointment for whoop whoop de woo at the doctor's office. And, if you don't tell the brothers that you have this appointment, I will. I said, it's none of your business. So I was like, hey, I'm still naive. I'm still trying to figure it all out. So I said, hey, can we talk about this? Because this is a lot for me already. So we decide we're gonna meet up. So she ends up coming to my apartment. I'm sitting in my living room and we talk. So she says, oh, I said, hey, I don't think you really fully understand what I'm going through. I'm not trying to go through this again. You don't know my experience before I even got to this point. So she says, well, you know, you don't have to give the child up. You can go ahead and have the child. And me and my husband, we would be glad to adopt it. I can't even vocalize all I'm going through, my emotions, and for her to come at me like that, number one. Number two, I know the family, they like, I grew up with their mama, and then it wasn't even a Black sister at that. So she coming at me crazy, talking about she gonna expose me and stuff, and I'm like, do what you gotta do. You
No.
know, I'm
So
already distraught. You know,
you're distraught. Your body, you're already in shock. You're in shock, you're distraught, you're going through an emotional roller coaster. And then she starts that, and
yeah,
she
she comes in and says that.
breaches your privacy.
Yeah, she was breaking all kinds of HIPAA laws, all kinds of HIPAA laws. Just even approaching me, telling me that she knew about the appointment.
So what did you do?
So I had to, in that appointment, I had to find, because it was going to be covered under my insurance, because at that time that sort of procedure was still, you know, legal. So I had to, in that appointment, I had to go find another place, talk to another doctor, set another appointment. Then, mind you, okay, now some people may get offended by reason why I wanted to do this on my own without exposing anybody to it, because it's my body. But after going through what I experienced with her and her threatening to tell the brothers, I had to tell my husband, you know? And so I told him, I said, hey, look, I already have my tubes tied. We didn't plan this, you know? We didn't plan the other two, but they here now. I'm like, I have a choice. I should be able to decide what I want. I don't want this. And I'm making myself sick. Like, I'm sick. Not just from morning sickness, but I'm sick inside. My heart's sick. And so I ended up having to make it a different appointment somewhere else. And I went ahead and had the procedure done. And I did it without my husband's consent. I came home and told him after the fact that's what I did. He basically said, you know, hey, you killed our child, and, you know, and I was just like, you know, he couldn't afford another kid, number one. And then on the second side, he was seeing somebody else on the side that I eventually found out about. During the time that I'm going through all of this, it was a lot. It was a lot. And nobody wants to go through that, you know. So because of that, I just, after that happened, I told myself I would dedicate myself to taking care of my children that I had here on this earth already, and not expose them to all this stuff that I've dealt with when I was a kid. Hey, when I'm feeling this way, I'm going through this. There's no support, or except for you telling me to come back to Jehovah. And if I did, when am I coming back to? And I don't know. Now this part is fuzzy because I don't remember who went to the brothers to tell who what. I don't know if I did, she did, or my husband did. I don't remember because it was all so overwhelming. But anyway, a meeting got scheduled with the brothers. So I go over there to the hall, and I'm already knowing, like, because I'm remorseful, but at the same time, I'm not, you know, and because they don't understand my situation. So I go and talk to them. I'm trying to explain them. I'm being heartfelt. I'm like, look, this is what I did. I went through this, and this to try to prevent this. This is what happened. Again, 3 brothers, no feminine energy, no women. It's all just, oh, we're going to disfellowship you. And I'm like, so y'all not going to help? Y'all not going to, like, assign a sister to me? Like, give me some guidance, talk me through what I just went through? Like, I need help. Nothing. Crickets. So when they said they disfellowship me, I was like, that was the last time I ever stepped foot into a Kingdom Hall ever again. Even when they said they read my name off at the meeting, I refused to go and put myself there. That's torture. I couldn't do it. And then nobody knows why I left. Nobody knows why I got disfellowshipped. But no, now I'm not on top of all that happening. Now I lose my whole community. Even the one I was trying to build at the new place, at the new hall, it's over with.
That's the thing about Jehovah's Witnesses. The elders, I should call out elders specifically, they really know how to kick you when you're down.
Yeah, they have no heart.
Nope,
No heart.
nope. You needed support when you needed support the most. That is when they abandon you.
Yeah,
And
they ask you some asinine questions, and I'm like,
I wish I could
I
say
told myself after I left that meeting, I said, I'm good. I'm good, y'all. And it wasn't, I didn't even leave because of necessarily the teachings at that time. I left because of the treatment. Now I found out about the teachings later. But at that point, when I got this fellowship, it was because how I was treated. Not just because of the brothers in the hall, but my family as well, because they're telling them and teaching them to do this, and they're perpetuating it towards us.
so what so you did this, you got disfellowshipped, and then what was the fallout? You say you lost your community. So obviously this is stop the shunning. You were shunned.
Yeah.
So what did shunning look like for you?
The shunning looked like for me, I had to escape. So I think maybe a month or two after this all happened, I got rid of my apartment. Me and my husband, we moved to Sacramento, and we got a place there. In Sacramento is probably like an hour and 45 minutes away from where we were, from Miller Park. So that allowed me to move to a new spot where I didn't know nobody.
So your whole family, what I'm trying to say is your whole family shunned you.
Yes. Now, I'll take this back. My brothers and sisters never shunned me. Okay. It was my parents and my aunts and cousins, other ones. Okay. I always try to keep an open relationship with my brothers and sisters. My brother, he was also disfellowshipped later on. So I have a brother and myself who are disfellowshipped, and then I have the other ones. They just never took to it based on how they treated us, because they saw how they treated us. And I made it a point to tell them, you see how they're treating us? Do you really want to join that? And you're like, I ain't no. And so I made sure I made it a point to, I would never raise my children in that. I moved to Sacramento, and then I started trying to raise my children. And I left there, and then I joined a church. So I went from one extreme to the other, because I'm still thinking I need to be under some spiritual guidance. I need to find me a church home, and because that's how we grew up, right? So I joined the church, and I actually joined the choir. Loved it, and that's how I learned I have a joy for singing. And that was another thing that I wanted to expose about Jehovah's Witnesses. You can't just make up your own song and sing it about God. You got to, any song you sing has got to be what they put in your head that you got to say. And it's not your words, it's their words, And I just learned that music was so moving, because I needed that at that time. I needed to open up my spirit and then until I had it falling out with the choir director, because she said I don't know, wherever she said I was, but I was like, well, I can just pick up and go somewhere else, because I'm already knowing where I came from. If you're going to come at me crazy, I could just leave. So left there and had an experience there. One of the pastor's little right-hand men tried to lock me in a room one time, try to get at me. No, lock the door.
No.
Yeah, that part. So I was like, no, I got to find me another church home. I'm never coming back here again. So I went to church number 3, joined a new church. And this church, I ended up still joining the choir, joined the praise team. Mind you, I'm telling my mom I'm going to church right now. She's like, oh, we won't pray for you because she's probably thinking I'm crazy. Because I'm trying to be honest and just like, I'm going to church. I still got God in my life, you know. But and she never see, that's the thing with my parents. They never just, I would say, stop talking to us. It's not always like that. Some parents, some kids, their parents and family stop talking completely. You never hear from them again. My parents, you can still say hi, how you doing, how's your day, but you never talk about nothing spiritual. Can't bring up nothing that you did from the past that may have hurt me. I think I looked up this word called Stockholm syndrome, and I think that was what I was experiencing. You know, when you're trying to have a relationship with people that hurt you at the same time, you know, and it's confusing. And because you say you love Jehovah and you want to be X, Y, and Z for God, you want to go and you treating your own family, your own firstborn, your flesh and blood, your daughter, worse than a stray dog. And I've left the house more than one time, just visiting my mom and dad over the years, just in complete tears, because I realize there's only so far I can get with as far as conversation. I can't talk about my life because they don't know they
You're
grand.
out.
Yeah,
You're not serving Jehovah. You're disfellowshipped. You're going to church.
yeah.
So all these things are
They don't know their grandkids like that.
they don't know.
They don't call unless we go and visit them. And I say they see the grandkids or whatever, and I'm like real quick with that, and then we go back home. Like they don't know them like that, and that's sad. Like not to even know your own grandchildren like that, nor are you concerned about what they're into.
It's really messed up that is the track record, or the legacy, I should say. The legacy of the Jehovah's Witnesses is that oftentimes when the child, meaning the grown adult child, is disfellowshipped and they have kids, they won't even have a relationship with their grandparents.
Right.
So that happens. So now you are in Sacramento. And
Mhm.
then, so what happens with life moving forward in Sacramento?
I decided that I was going to work on my talent, which was doing hair, and I ended up going to school, and I got certified for doing that, and I've been doing that ever since. I just try to find what makes me happy, and whether that be in singing, hobbies, anything that takes away from me and my family in a negative way, like them meetings that took away from our family in a negative way. We could have been doing way much more. And then for us, an entity like the Watchtower to be okay with parents not having relationships with their parents, cousins, aunts, uncles not having relationships with their nieces and nephews. That's not that's a negative entity if I ever heard of one. I would never want to serve a God that would be able want to condone something like that. If anything, I would want to serve a God. If I was going to serve a God that was going to empower my family, to help us establish the relationships together so that we don't have this imbalance. Like my other family members, I don't even think I ever told them that my parents was shunning me. And then, we get together for family get-togethers at my grandmother's house. I don't think my other family members knew that this was going on because it was so much of a disconnect. And I'm getting along with the other family members, and I'm just kind of walking on tiptoes of my own family. And for them to be what you call considered a charity, the Watchtower, no. They need their privilege. They need all their money that the state paid them revoked. They are not a religious entity. They are negative.
Well, they don't do anything. There's no community outreach programs. There's no soup kitchens, no help for the homeless, no help
Nope.
for single parents, no food pantry, anything like that. So,
Because of all this negative stuff that was going on in my life when I was a kid and a teenager, I at times didn't want to be here no more. And I tried to unalive myself several times before I even got to the age of 18. It's just that it didn't. I think one time it happened, and I ended up falling in the bathtub and getting a bruise. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm so thankful that I'm still here, because my mental state has been affected in the worst way by this organization. I ended up having to go into the psych ward at one point, you know, but through all of that, I know that it has made me a better person and a stronger person. And I know that more people like us need to tell our stories, because they bank on us being quiet and not saying nothing. And the reason why I picked you to tell my stories, because I do want to stop this shunning. I would love it to where I wish I could say that, you know, they would do something about it and protect the children, but they're not. And then, you know, they're throwing things over people's head to the fact of, oh, well, you can toast. You can toast. You can wear pants now. You can do this. And I was like, well, what are you guys toasting for? You're not even talking to your own kids. What are you toasting for?
I can't talk to my mother, but we can toast now. Genius.
What are you toasting to? Put the glass down and actually call your family members and talk to them. I talked to a sister, and there's a sister who lives with my mother, and I talked to her a little bit more than I actually talked to my mother. I said, I think we got to on the subject of, I said, I'm never going back to the meetings. I said, Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult. And she goes, well, what makes you think they're a cult? I said, because you can't just leave. You got to get the jump in is the baptism. The jump out is the disfellowship, or you got to run or leave. It's a whole mafia conglomerate, satanic. And then when I started doing my homework on what the watch show really is, blew my hair back.
LaTrina, thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared with us. Where are you at now? How are you doing?
I live in Texas now. I live in a small town out here. My children have migrated out here as well, so they're with me. We're doing great. I have my business. I do hair from home. I think I have the first African-American hair salon in my town. So that's been great. And I'm just trying to, for the most part, just enjoy my life. And, you know, I make sure I try to meditate and always try to listen to things that have positive affirmations, because sometimes, you know, you do have that childhood stuff that does creep in, because I'm still to this day dealing with that. You know, I'm still, you know, dealing with being shunned by my family. And so the way I've taken it is to try to empower myself to know that me leaving, though all those years ago, was the best thing I could have did for my family. And I will attest to that to the day I die. But out here, I'm just thankful that I've learned, because I'm learning how to meditate, learn about science, learn about astrophysics, learn about who I am as a Black woman, and what does that mean to me, and how can I pay it forward and help others to leave organizations like this that do things like this to people, you know, not protecting children, where children have no voice at all. They don't have no laws for children at all, none. But they can just do whatever they want with them. And it's not fair to children. So the reason why my screen says awakened goddess is because I am awakened and I know who I am, and I am a goddess, not necessarily to be worshiped, but just know that I have power, and power in my voice to speak up on things that no longer resonate with me, and things that can help and influence other people to leave organizations like this. And don't put your children in things like this, because it's a negative connotations that come with this, even years later, generations later. And I'm so glad I did not perpetuate the same nonsense moving forward into the next generation of children, because they don't need that. you know, and I wanted to eventually try to start my own channel, you know, and help like you and empower women to be able to speak up and speak and have a voice because we don't have a voice. You know, Jehovah's Witness women don't have a voice at all. And then a black woman at that, even worse, you know, and I don't want another black woman or a woman, period, to go through something like that because it's not right. It's not right. I don't like the way they treat people, and I chose to this year to come out and say I have a voice, officially have a voice. The congregation that I came from, they were like you know, years later became infamous for other things, but I'm just like, it doesn't even exist anymore, you know, and I'm like, that's good. We need more congregations to not exist, you know?
Did you lie? No.
Because
Did you lie? No.
so if that means me becoming an activist and fighting for rights for, you know, so y'all can just so we can just have a life and breathe and live and just get to know ourselves in our mind, because you don't realize how much mind control you are under until you actually leave. And you will be like, oh my God, I can't believe I just opened myself up to all of that. My parents opened themselves up to all of that, and their children up to all of that. And with the expectation that we're supposed to just keep dealing with this for our lifetime. And that's not right. And I'm thankful that I'm in a place in my life where I don't feel hate in my heart, because it's easy to feel that way, but you can turn that hate to activism. You can turn it to love other people and have an appreciation for other people's cultures, other people's religions, other people's way of thinking, and not be so closed-minded as to think that your religion is the only religion that's going to get you to God. Because you can go to God right now just talking to him by yourself. Why do you need those men in New York to help you? You know, you have the choice. You come here, you have the power. We're electromagnetic beings. We have the power to make choices in our lives that are going to affect us for the positive. And I chose to use my power for the positive.
You're a cycle breaker. You broke the cycle. You broke the cycle. Thank you so much, LaTrina, again, for sharing your story. You, despite everything that you've gone through, you came out on top. You are not just surviving, but thriving. And if you enjoyed this interview, please like and subscribe. Go ahead and share LaTrina's story with your friends and family. And again, thank you, LaTrina, for sharing everything that you did with us today on Stop the Shunning. Thank you for coming on the channel.
Thank you for having me, Bethany. I appreciate it.